Welcome to another spoiler pod with the Guy at the Movies podcast from Joe and Sean. With Joe and Sean. I am Joe. He is Sean.
And we're not on a split screen.
It's so weird.
I mean, if you're watching on Instagram, we're on a split screen, but we're not on a split screen on YouTube.
Don't know how to do it. It's so like, how do we make this work?
It's really difficult right now. I don't know if I talk to you or do I talk to the screen. I've been kind of doing both.
It's going to be one of those like, well, thank you for that question. Now,
I feel like it's the Today Show when it's all four of them and they don't know how to interact.
they just drink in the fourth hour.
Okay.
So today we're going to be talking Black Widow. We saw it last night. I actually traveled up to Connecticut to go see Black Widow.
And that's why he's here. Otherwise, this would be the greatest effect of all time.
And also, I had to keep myself on the train yesterday from saying Connecticut.
Is that something outsiders struggle with?
No, but it's from, what horror movie is that? Connecticut. It's in one of the horror movies. Yeah, it's Screamers. Yeah, that's a porn. If you guys know what that is from, please let us know because, of course, we are not remembering, which we're very good at with this podcast. We'll screw up a few names. Guys on the couch.
Luke Reviews already has our new podcast name.
Out of control he is. All right, so we're going to dive into Black Widow. If you haven't listened to a spoiler pod before, please know that we are going to get into, spoilers. So we will be talking about the finer points of the film, give our ratings, give our thoughts, and have a little fun with it. So we'll see where it goes. Of course, this is the return to the movies for Marvel. It looks like, based on everything that I'm seeing, and we'll figure out tomorrow when Box Office Report files their report, their Box Office Report, it looks like it's going to be a huge weekend for it. So that's kind of wild. But I guess that was to be expected as well.
I mean, just anecdotally, yesterday when we got to the theater, it was the most packed I've seen the theater since the pandemic started. Granted, I saw Fast 9 at like 11:30 a.m. on a Friday, so that means that's not a great judgment of it. However, it seemed like the most packed theater was fully packed, which unfortunately hasn't meant much because the theater was packed for In the Heights for me as well, and that didn't do so well in the box office.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend about like what's this going to be over under on 100 million debut weekend. That's probably pretty gracious. I think a lot of people are watching this at home.
Yeah, that's true too.
There's still a lot of people doing that, but with the $30 premium access, most people are probably trying to go for the theater. But it's a tough call.
It could be. I mean, the other thing to remember with Premier Access is that you have continuous availability with it.
Yeah.
So you buy it, and then you watch it, and as many times as you want. And there's already people. I think Filmstock just put up today that he was. Or I guess he went last night for the second time. So it is something that people like to rewatch from Marvel films. What did you think of it?
I liked it.
Okay.
And I wish I could, say more to it on that. And I'm done. But no, I like this as it was an action movie. And it was a clear-cut action movie. Now, that's a good thing and a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It means great action. It means fun. It means you get the comic relief. And we'll talk about who provides that comic relief in a little bit. But I think if you've seen it, you know who does. It was a great action movie. And then the faults of an action movie, overblown third act, pretty terrible villain, unfortunately. And just ultimately, in the end, pretty unsatisfying.
Yeah, I kind of fell apart, or the film fell apart, and I fell off of it a little bit in the third act. As soon as that whole reveal where it was like actually Natasha Romanoff and not Milena, is that her name? Milena?
Yeah.
I was a little like, where did that come from? Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, like you said, it was a straightforward action film for quite a while, and then it just kind of went into the typical like Marvel craziness, Red Room in the Sky and all that stuff.
Stop having hideouts in the sky, whether you're good guys or bad guys. When you have the hideouts in the sky, they fall. They fall. Like every time you go down. Oh, man.
Yeah. That was really bothering me. I think the whole third act kind of fell apart a little bit because of it was just trying to do too much. And the story, which had been pretty straightforward the entire time, just became a little bit more convoluted. And they tried, of course, we get the reveal of Taskmaster and who that actually is. I like how they went about that. Mm-hmm. It wasn't what was expected, but they drastically underutilized that character. And I loved that character for the 10 minutes she was on screen. Spoiler.
Yeah, unfortunately. Like, it's just, you don't get like a lot of like, you're supposed to get this big emotive kind of, and you don't get that. It just doesn't really like come through, and I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I was pushing myself to feel any sort of emotion when the two of them are on the ground fighting, but you kind of just don't get much of it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What do you think of this in terms of it being the first starring vehicle within the MCU for Scarlett Johansson / Natasha Romanoff? It's the first solo film that she's had. She's aside from Hawkeye, the only Avenger that hasn't had original Avenger. Well, I guess Hawkeye wasn't an original, was he? Yeah, he was.
Yeah. He was in that.
But what did you think about it in terms of that?
I think Scarlett had a lot of help in terms of the emotion part of the performances. Like your role as Natasha Romanoff is to be without emotion until you're towards the end, and it's during Endgame where she has probably her most emotion, and she does have her best performance in my opinion. Scarlett Johansson's best performance.
You could say that her emotion is splattered on the screen.
Just absolutely, she just really sacrifices herself, and
she really dove into that performance.
Dove down into now we're doing Endgame spoilers.
It wasn't a big jump for her.
But I think with her, it's tough to be the leader in that because you're a cold-blooded killer spy that's trying to deal with, and then the part where then you're trying to shed that part of yourself, which we never see. Yeah. We just see her as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Who has this past, who is haunted by this past at times, but who, basically is okay. And in this movie, she's okay. She's trying to reckon with that past, and there's something there, but I don't know. I think the rest of the cast around her was more talented. I think she was fine. She was what she required of her character, but that's probably it. How you doing?
I'm thinking about this is a bigger issue with Marvel for me, is that they always try to retcon some things, or not retcon, but pad in a story that was neglected or was never touched on in the past. We're going to see that coming up with Eternals, right? They have to explain why the Eternals just kind of hung around.
Did not deal with Thanos at all.
This is your fight. So we're going to see that. And then also thinking about when they actually introduced the X-Men, were mutants around? What was going on with Professor Xavier? Is he just chilling? And he's like, nope, not our fight. Kids are too young. But that's kind of how I felt here, right? She thought she killed Dracoff. Is that Dracoff?
Yeah.
Thought she did that. She thought that she was kind of free from the Red Room and all that stuff. But then ultimately it ended up not being so. And that was sort of the crux of the film. Yeah. And that's what kind of bothered me, because you obviously never heard of Dracoff again. I mean, before. Yeah. We never will again. Not the best character. And it's just, I don't know. It bothered me a little bit, because I feel like as far as Scarlett Johansson, I loved her performance. I thought she was really good. She's always been really good as that character, and she's continued to grow into it. But in terms of did I need this movie? I wanted a movie from her, and I wanted a movie about her, but I don't know that this really did justice for the character the way that I wanted it to.
I want to sort of push back on that, even though I fully agree with you. I do. This is my great debating skills. You're absolutely wrong. I agree with you, though. But I think that this was not necessary. This was not needed. This was in the middle of her hiding. I didn't even know it was going to be in the middle of that during the Sokovia Accords until I saw William Hurt, and I was like, oh shit.
But also, William Hurt couldn't find her during this whole thing. It's not like she was hiding. She was out there flying around doing all kinds of
She was on a ferry with an Apple cell phone. That's immediate. They can still find those when they're gone.
Right.
I don't think this was necessary. I don't think we needed this. I'm thrilled we got it, just like you said. Yeah. I don't think some Marvel movies need to be necessary. Some of them do. Some of them need to be to introduce this next universe, this new character, this and that. And we'll talk about how this might need to do that. This just felt like an action film that, I don't want to say didn't have a purpose, but was just literal fun. We had fun last night.
Yeah, it was a fun film.
But that was it. And, I think a lot of times with these Marvel movies, we're like, okay, how does, the Feigeism says, how does this service the story and stuff? And it's like, well, this one didn't really do anything for the greater good, because we already know where this person's going. We got Pew is going somewhere else, which we haven't said her name yet, so we have to make sure that name is said again and again, so it doesn't disappear. But Pew, like in the Heights. Vanessa, but Florence.
Oh, guys, I
don't know anymore. I started that though. I can't even be mad. But I think that there's a couple of characters that are necessary. This was just dumb fun, and I kind of thank Marvel for doing that for once, where it's just
That's
like,
fun, yeah.
you know, me not saying like, you know, wait, how is this going to fit into the like phase 4 and all this stuff, and instead it was just, you know what, let's showcase this character who's dead. We know she's dead, like that's it, and
Yeah.
it worked out.
I agree, but I don't think it did anything for her character.
Oh yeah,
Like there was no emotional growth. There was no like. It's not like I understand her better or anything like that. If anything, it was more of a showcase for the other characters that were introduced, primarily Florence Pugh's Yelena, but then also Red Guardian, who I'm not convinced we've seen the last of. Just the way that they talk about him with Captain America and stuff like that. And I guess I'm okay with that because, you know, it was a fun movie, but I just wish they would have done a little bit better by Scarlett Johansson in this film. Florence Pugh, let's switch over to talking about her. She absolutely steals the show.
Holy shit.
She's funny as hell. Her action, instincts are great. Her accent also didn't bother me. She did really well.
Well, she's someone that like I just figured out she's British.
She's British.
Like the fact that like she went through Little Women and Midsummer, and I had no idea. I mean, you know, that's always the case with new actresses coming out of the scene, but like unbelievable that she, you know, it's a tough accent to pull off, as we saw with, you know, technically 3 other actors. It's, you know, and they do well. They do well, but it's something where you sound like Boris and Natasha when you do it in English. It's just that's what it's going to be.
Well, and it's so funny to me. This is a kind of a side. I'm going to say a side hustle. This is a side brand. But Americans typically can't do other accents, but other like nationalities and those of like British descent and who have an accent, whatever, can do Americans really fine, can do anything really fine, really. And it's us that are like sounding like the dumbasses when we try to do anything.
Well, that's true, except for when you hear Benedict Cumberbatch try to do an American accent. See if you can manifest a marble on Ryan. Like, Jesus Christ!
Manifest a marble on Ryan.
It's my favorite line.
Oh my God.
I agree with that. I do love that. That's going off of a big side tangent, which we have to turn back on the highway soon. Chernobyl, they just said we're not doing Russian accents. The miniseries Chernobyl, they just said we're doing English accents. Yeah. Screw it. And no one was bothered by that because they just won the awards. So, yes, won quite a few of the awards, so it sounded better. But back to Pugh, who is the comic relief in this, but it's comic relief that is serious and has a heaviness to her that. You know, there's no intentionality in her comic relief.
Yeah.
Like, and I've rarely seen that because I always see comic actors trying a little bit too hard to be funny. Sam Richardson absolutely nails it in the Tomorrow War, but he is there to be funny. Yeah. I feel like Florence Pugh is just there, and just sort of like through a certain sort of translation, she turns out to be quite hysterical.
And she's the more balanced performer in this because she's given more to work with. Her character has the emotional weight of what's happened to her because she was 6 or something when she was taken, and so she's still dealing with all that, and she says at one point like, I'm not an Avenger or something, so she's carrying a lot more, and it's not a knock on Scarlett Johansson because I just don't think they wrote her character well enough in this. It really was a Florence Pugh show in a lot of ways, and I'm thankful for that, and it sounds like we're going to see her a little bit more moving forward. But before we get to that, the question just came up: what did we think of Taskmaster? And I can start there. I love Taskmaster. I wanted to see more from the character. I felt like we didn't get a lot of the action that we were promised. The very first interaction between Natasha and Taskmaster is really interesting because the camera work is really kind of jumpy, and you don't get like a consistent punch, kick, whatever. It's just really weird how they did that. So I don't know. I think they kind of wasted that character a little bit. I like the twist in the film. So, again, this is a spoiler pod. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you haven't seen it, this is going to be a spoiler. But it was Dracov's daughter who kind of was collateral damage when Natasha tried to kill Dracov back in the day. Apparently, everyone can survive fire here.
Everyone survived that explosion. Like, Black Widow sucked at making explosions.
Yeah, she's not very good. It must have been that CGI work near the end, too. So that's where she got her explosives.
The explosives from is the fake animation here.
So I don't know. Taskmaster was cool. I like that they didn't try to give it like a big. I thought at one point they were going to say it was, Clint again or something, or something crazy like that. But it was just interesting how they did it. It was very interesting to weave in an organic story into what they were telling in that actual story. So I liked it. I wanted more. I think that they severely underutilized that character. The suit was awesome though.
Yeah, I mean, I was, obviously I'm the one that like doesn't really know much about comics until they're put into the film, so I'm just like, that's a guy in a suit. I don't really have any sort of like level of it, but I enjoyed the fights, and this was, basically it seemed like the big bad for most of it. Obviously, we get, the much more fit and versatile Ray Winstone, and. At first, it seems like Taskmaster's the big bad. It's like, this is someone we're gonna have to fight. This is someone who's like can't be killed, can't be defeated, and I think that is basically what happened. Taskmaster couldn't be killed or defeated, but you could see to where the greater good was, and it was one of her past wrongs coming home to roost again.
Yeah.
So that's true. Like Scarlett Johansson wasn't given much until they, like you said, retconned an explosion and stuff like that, and then it turns out, oh, okay, now she's going to correct all the things that she did wrong in the flashbacks of this movie only.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, if we're looking at it as a single solitary movie, it's like, okay. But there was, there's something to that. But like I said before, at the very end of it, there was just, I did not feel the emotion I think I was supposed to feel and wanted to feel, honestly.
No, I completely agree with that. I think that it was missing. It is kind of interesting, though, that trying to correct her past indiscretions. This was a past indiscretion that happened after she was out of the Reverend control.
This was her last thing to be a part of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
Which, what the fuck, S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also she didn't, when she saw the child, it's not like she reacted or anything. It wasn't like a no. It was just like a.
Well, yeah, it was the Johansson act. It's just like like a single tear.
Yeah. It's like she knew that it was bad fire. It was
they'll both be okay. I'll have to fight them, but they'll both be okay.
I'll have to fight them when Marvel gives me a movie down the road. So that was kind of interesting. The rest of the cast, I thought David Harper was really good. Mm-hmm. Rachel Weisz was really good.
They had the most complicated roles, without a doubt, because they are not their actual parents, but they are two people that, essentially raised them for a certain amount of time and then sent them to an abusive camp of super soldiers. And that's really difficult to say, those two people should be getting any sort of redemption arc at all.
Yeah. I'm still a little confused about that. I have to be honest, because they were stationed in Ohio back in the 80s, mm-hmm. and they're made by S.H.I.E.L.D., it seems.
Yeah.
They escape in an airplane, and young Natasha flies an airplane. But
young Natasha flies an airplane with David Harbour on the wing the entire time?
Never see him get in. But they were an undercover family that was put together. I think we're led to believe it was only 3 years that they were together. But what was the deal with when what's her name? Oh my gosh, Rachel Weisz's character, Milena. Milena?
Oh, no, Milena was the.
That was Yelena.
Yelena. Is there Milena and Yelena?
There's some Marie. I don't know.
Weisz's character.
Yeah, Weisz's character. She, when she's on her deathbed, seemingly, and you think she's going to pass, that's when they take the kids. Was that the plan? That
was the plan all along.
If they ever got made, then they take the kids, or
I think if they ever went back, they would take the kids.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's their mission was over in Ohio to pose as a family. They didn't make the kids. The kids were there, but then they bring the kids back. It seemed like Johansson as a child, Scarlett Johansson as a child, Natasha already had some training.
She had been there,
and so she already been there. And she's like, "Don't put so it's already it's oh, this is a nightmare camp."
Yeah.
And then through the opening credits, we kind of see that, and Ray Winstone goes from, as I call him, Russian Ditka to just regular Ray Winstone, and then he just decides not to have a Russian accent the rest of the time. It's a very Winstone just decided to give up on his role very quickly, which I'm just absolutely loving. Just all-star work from him. And it's just difficult because, as they said, you're strong, you can take this on. Maybe they didn't know how terrible it was, Harper and Weisz, and it was something where, when they break him out of prison and, Hugh punches him in the face, I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I'm great. This is exactly what he deserves.
What was the disc at the beginning?
The disc.
Remember the disc that David Harbour had?
He set fire to S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
The whatever S.H.I.E.L.D. facility he worked at. And I'm just assuming it was information. I don't know if
they never really came to discuss that.
I think it was just everything that Shield had. He put it on one disc, which of course we know can't happen. But
which maybe it is like red. Well, no, it was. It does make sense.
I literally just put it as, and this could be wrong. Oh God, it could be like all the girls' identities, and then that's just even worse. No, it's not that.
No, because they would. Yeah.
But
that's what I was thinking. I was going that route too.
Like now he's actually the devil. I truly think it was just like Shield secrets from 85 or 95, and like they have some stuff to get a hold on them now. But
yeah, that's kind of interesting. Because the reason I'm thinking that is because we get this weird technological angle with Taskmaster, where she's like programmable through like the chip in the back of her neck or whatever, which I guess was how you were supposed to save someone who had just been mutilated in a fire. I don't understand that part, but it's kind of weird because they use a lot of like social conditioning and all that stuff for the Red Room, but then with the daughter, they like use a computer chip.
Well, so I think she was an early model, and then Weiss was working on the pigs to like make that like a new model that's a little bit more like maybe discreet, so it's not like a chip the size of a freaking unicorn.
And they can like activate them at certain times too. Yeah, interesting.
Possibly.
I wonder if we're going to see Taskmaster again because she's around at the end of the movie.
She's going with the widows and with Weiss. Weiss of the widows.
Weiss of the widows. But doesn't Yelena go with them too?
Well, she does, but yes, she does.
So what's interesting is there's a lot of opportunity to see like what Yelena's been up to because let's get to it. The after credit scene, Yelena is visiting Natasha's plot of land, sister, daughter, Avenger, visiting her tombstone and gravesite. And she is approached by Valentina, who we saw in Falcon and Winter Soldier, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. And she's a really funny interaction.
Great work from Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Like absolutely wonderful.
Yeah. So what we get there is sort of we know that Natasha's dead. We know that this is after the events of Endgame. And we find out that the new target for Yelena is the man who did this to Natasha. And it's Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, which seemingly is setting up some sort of interaction for the Hawkeye series that we know is coming. And Sean and I were talking last night. We really don't know much about it outside of Haley Steinfeld being involved. So, I mean, Yelena being the big bad makes a lot of sense. But how much we're going to see of her, I don't know. But, we're probably going to see her in Hawkeye. That's great. Is that going to be the last of Florence Pugh? I don't think so because she's just too good in this role.
She's really good in this role. I mean, I said she was sort of the unassuming comic relief, and like she has the heaviness to her and stuff like that, and she's not like incidental in her comic relief. But she got all the good lines. Like, when everyone's reading the script, they're like, "What the hell? Pugh's got everything good." And so, like, they're working her up to something. I mean, we could see her in Hawkeye as probably, I'm assuming, villain turned good.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what I'm assuming. Like,
at the very end, they're going to come together about, like, no, Natasha was really great, and this is what she did to save the world, and it's going to be like, oh, yeah, we're all good now.
Well, she says this is what she did to save the world, and then she chucks Pugh off a cliff as well.
Yeah. She's like, me too. Someone just told me that the after credit scene was stupid. Who do you think that would be?
On YOLO.
Yes, it was on YOLO. That after credit scene was just stupid. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was well placed. The line of, oh God,
enjoy something.
The line of, I'm allergic to the Midwest was just
pretty
wonderful.
Great. Like, just pretty solid. Like, just fits into, I mean, you do say, like, it's not completely her Veep character, but it's something pretty natural there.
Luke says Florence Pugh versus Haley Steinfeld will break the internet.
Oh my God.
It really will, actually.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit more about, because I sort of dismissed them because we just talked about their characters and how they're pretty freaking flawed. But Harper's performance is pretty great.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you require out of someone like that. This is, the Sheriff Hopper, Stranger Things, has done wrong, has a little bit of issues here and there, but there's a vulnerability to
Absolutely.
that. Like, I really, really loved, and like it made me forget about the fact that he sent his daughters to a horrible military camp.
Daughters.
Yeah, quote unquote daughters. But it was great. Weiss is just kind of, what is the word? Like, I think I always just say effortless charm. and it's just she's always that good, and she never looks like she's trying.
Yeah.
Which is scary.
Yeah, she looks incredible we were talking about that
Yeah.
last night. For her age, she looks incredible. I think it was Sam that said mentioned the mummy in the middle of the movie. And I was like, yes.
Well, it's great because she whispered to me, and she's like, like she looks as good as she did in the Mummy. And then you whispered to me, did Sam just say Mummy?
And David Harbour is someone that I'm not the biggest fan of. His character in Stranger Things actually annoys me a lot. And I haven't loved him in things. And I think obviously Hellboy might not being the best best property
God,
to
I
think of him in.
forgot about that.
All right. But I really liked him in this. I thought he nailed what he needed to do, like you said. The cast itself was pretty solid, with the exception of Winstone.
Winstone, I want to do one more thing, and then we're going to talk about Winstone.
Go for it.
Yeah, but I love the idea. What was the name? The Red Avenger or something like that. I don't want to know what he said.
The Red Guardian.
The Red Guardian.
He just called you. Tell Mike from Monsters Inc. to shut up. I enjoy the movie. He called you Mike from Monsters Inc.
Why? Is it because I'm short? Because that's a thing I'm dealing with.
Film archaeologist said, I love Winstone.
Okay.
So,
I want to talk about, but I just want to talk about the Red Guardian because there's an interesting moment in the prison where he's doing the, whatever it is, the arm wrestling with everybody, and everyone's like, you're full of shit. There was nothing in the 80s and stuff like that. I think that the Red Guardian was great arm wrestling scene, even when you think he's going to lose. I think that he also got the serum as a Captain America type, but became a Captain America property.
Yes.
So he is propaganda, which, I mean, hey, they're pretty goddamn famous for it, as well as America, I guess. But is he's like basically Russian propaganda, because you know what, they'll give him stories that he fucked up Captain America here and there, and he obviously didn't, but he's still like holding on to those stories, not for his own gloriousness, maybe a little bit, but to try to keep up with
glorious purpose.
The glorious purpose.
He's the third super soldier that we have absolutely confirmed from the serum, right? Captain America.
Were there a shitload in the series?
Yeah, I get. Well, yes, but in terms of government created.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
Steve Rogers. Oh my
Isaac.
God. Isaac.
I always say Isaac. Is it Isaiah?
Isaiah. It is Isaiah. And then him.
Those are the ones that are the Watchfly, not where they stole the serum or something like that.
So there's a cool opportunity there down the road. I don't know. That might be interesting. Let's see.
Oh,
maybe he fought
the Joe Biden looking Captain America. Beautiful Biden looking Captain America.
Yeah.
I will say. So now let's talk about, because people are talking about Winstone.
You hold on real quick. U.S. Agent does have it too, but U.S. Agent wasn't authorized to have it.
Yeah,
he took it himself.
Got a lot of people talking to us about this. I like it.
Yeah,
this is good. I will say, when it comes down to it,
Winstone,
yeah. I mean, first of all, terrible script, like terribly written villain.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, man behind the curtain. Like, it's one of those things where it should be a simple premise, where this is like they say when they're in the plane at one point, they're like, oh, we're gonna kill whatever the hell his name is, Winstone.
Steal the Declaration of Independence.
Exactly. And we know what we're dealing with. We know what's happening. This plot is they're going to kill the guy that basically made them widows. And so they're ready to go. They're psyched. They're really ready to rock. But then that plot gets so complicated. And it's because of the character that Winstone is playing. That's the biggest thing. And so, first of all, written poorly, but then Winstone does it no favors with this very completely dry, off-putting, and it's weird. You said dry. I think it's dry. It's also somehow hammy, where he's he's just he does not fit in the rest of the movie.
No, not at all.
And that's the part that gets me. And the parts where he's angry is I had to put a chip in the back of my daughter's neck, and I'm like, she also was in an explosion that Natasha caught. It was one of those things where I didn't understand, and I'm a Winstone fan, but I think you need certain parts for him, and this was not. It was miscast. I think.
I never bought him as the big bad.
Yeah,
I really didn't. The fact that he survived so long with controlling the Red Room and all this, I just don't buy it. Yeah. And I think that's the problem. All right, we're getting questions from people. The first being what our ratings are. And
no!
I think we need to go there.
Yeah. All right. So
My review is done. It's ready to go.
See, my review is not done, so it's going to be a while. But I think I'm actually going to give this a B because I look at it as usually a lot of Marvel movies get an A,
Yeah.
and then they later on get a B from me. So that right off the bat is like telling you that there's always like Marvel movies trick me when I walk out of the theater,
Right.
and then I realize later I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
In this one, it just didn't trick me. I'm sitting there during that third act, and I'm like, I can't do this. It's fun until then, and so like I'm giving it the B for that.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm giving it a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, but the story itself just didn't live up to what I wanted it to be. The acting is what really elevates everything for me. I loved the acting. Florence Pugh delivered absolutely what I wanted her to. Even more, actually. I mean, the comedic timing and comedic efforts that were kind of like inherent in the dialogue that she was giving was just fantastic. And when she hits that pose at the end,
that was so good.
That was so good.
Sam called that when like one of the poses happened. She said like, she's going to get the pose at the end. And she gets the pose at a totally private moment.
Yeah.
Which I think is even better. Yeah. It's like her own like review.
And you see her recognize it too. Like, oh, shit.
Well, she just sort of said like, it's overrated. I want to just, Pugh's great last line is, her not last line because she survives, but what she was about to do before she was quote unquote going to die was, this was fun.
Yeah.
Which was a very funny line, but like the more I thought about it, I'm like, this is actually a deep thing. She got to experience time with her sister again, her family again, and like as she shoves it in, she's like ready to die. She's like wanting to let her know, hey, like we had ourselves die. And there was like 2 levels to that I really liked, even though it was meant to be a funny joke.
I totally am with you there. I think that that is just another example of how they inadvertently made a Florence Pugh movie. But Aniolo says, enjoy something. And then said, so I'm not the only one that enjoy it the most. I want an apology from Mike. He's calling you Mike. We have to figure that one out.
Well, no, I mean, like it's a shame because there's no Mike here.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give apologies out, but unfortunately, Mike's not here. So.
Math teacher Mike. What? The other question that we got was, would this be in your top 10 Marvel films?
No.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
And that's so this is here we go because I'll start getting mad about Luca again because this is the one thing everyone's just like Luca won't be in the top 10 of my Pixar movies because the top 10 Pixar movies are the top 10 movies of all time.
Right.
And so I think like top 10 Marvel films is the same level where there is just such a high like amount of movies that are pretty solidly high up there.
Absolutely.
That it's tricky.
Yeah. What would you? So,
oh god,
we're not going to do the full top 10, but I'm trying to think. Like as that question was asked, I was like, or after that question, I was like, what will be my top 10? Thor Ragnarok is my favorite.
Yeah,
it's my absolute favorite MCU movie. We watched a little bit of Endgame this morning. Endgame's definitely up there. Infinity War's probably up there. Winter Soldier's up there for me. Black Panther's up there for me. Ant-Man is actually up there for me. I love Ant-Man. I don't know if it's top 10, but
I'm sort of with you on that. Like it's pretty solid. It's tough to put that. This is the top 10 thing.
Yeah.
Like it's like Ant-Man has this sting of not being directed by Edgar Wright, where it's just like imagine what that would have been, and that's fine. You can't do that. But
Philmatic said, Aniolo said number 1 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
I actually would be down with that.
Guardians of the Galaxy's I'm with it being up there. Guardians of the Galaxy 2
is a nightmare.
It's a nightmare.
It's an absolute fever dream of a nightmare.
Film Addict, I don't care what people say, but Black Widow is way, way better than Spider-Man No Way Home.
That one didn't come out yet.
Yeah, I was like, do you mean Far From Home?
Far From Home is not a good...
I love Far From Home. Jake Gyllenhaal just elevated that for me.
He was great. Yeah, he was great. I think the other part of that was that there was just this weird... this is coming from being a teacher, I think, where there was like this weird like school trip teacher thing where I'm like, they would have been fired on the first day. Am I suspending disbelief in a comic movie? No, I'm not. But that's because it just bothered me too much that it was a little bit tough.
Filmatic said that Black Widow is far better than Far From Home.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to say that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think I would put them at the same level.
But breaking news here, Aniolo agrees that Guardians of the Galaxy 2 sucks. Whoa!
Enjoy some... No, just kidding. I agree.
And Iron Man 1's also up there for me. Iron Man 1's interesting because it's a unique movie in that we look back at it now as the kickoff. And we didn't know what we were getting when it was first coming out, and obviously what the whole series would become. But I'm with you. I think that's up there.
Iron Man would be on my top 10 easily. Just because I think because it is so simple. Like, not only is it that kickoff, but it's so simple villains, simple premise. Like everything is just really easy to handle.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, for mine, I mean, I agree with you on most of the ones there. I mean, Black Panther, Thor, Ragnarok, those would be on there. Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, like I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But it is just, it's one of those things where Endgame was the second part, but does feel like its own movie.
Absolutely.
Infinity War was the first part, but only does feel like the first part of a movie.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's where it's like, I'm a completionist at that. So,
but it's intended to, because everything changes.
I can't. Like it's unfair of me to do this, but I'm still a completionist, and I still.
I agree with you, but you're wrong. No,
that's my debate trick.
I agree with you, but you're wrong.
I don't know what else would be on it though, but.
Well, we have some big Marvel projects coming up. So Loki obviously ends next week, and I'm really excited to see how that ends because I've really enjoyed that series. We then have Shang Chi as the next big Marvel film. I'm assuming we're going to get Hawkeye near the end of the year. The other point that was brought up earlier by Luke was that we might be getting Miss Marvel before that. I'm not sure what that order is. They seem to play loosey-goosey with all that anyway.
The TV shows are doing whatever they want.
Yeah, they're like, whatever.
They're just going everywhere.
But then we get the Eternals, which I think is going to be huge. I'm very excited for the Eternals. Number one, it looks beautiful. Number two, the cast is wild. And number three, they're like, that's a big property.
Everything about that has it going for it, which is just, it scares the crap out of me then. Like, I worry so much about, this has an Academy Award-winning director who has just done the indie films, wins the Academy Award, then goes to the Marvel, which is just like classic move.
And teaches them how to not use green screen.
Still my greatest Kevin Feige. How'd you get the waves to look like that? She's like, I filmed it. Greatest moment ever.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. But we get that, and then we have No Way Home coming at the end of the year. So that's wild. We also have Venom in there, too. Which is kind of like loosely connected in some ways. Aniola just said that we accept when you guys get paid by Amazon to say Tomorrow War is good.
That's not a Marvel movie. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's not the focus of this.
Yes.
But number two, I wish that we got sponsored by Amazon or someone like that.
I'm a bad liar. I would probably be a little bit more specific if I was talking about Tomorrow.
I just really enjoyed it. So, that's the nice part of this community, Aniola. We're allowed to have opinions that differ.
No, you can't have that.
Film Addict said, oh, absolutely, they got paid a big bag. Well, if you can prove that and help me find that big bag, I haven't seen it yet, but I would love it.
Look at us on the live stream right now. Look at how we're dressed. Look at how we look. Do you think we're getting paid by Amazon? Look at this. Are you? Yeah, look at the studio. Look, we have a light connected to a laptop connected to the wall. Are we getting Amazon bucks? Yeah.
Anyway,
sorry, we're good.
So it's a B for you, it's a 3 for me, and that's pretty much the talk about Black Widow.
I think so. I think we got everything.
I think that's it.
We're talking about.
I think that's it. Will we be doing one for Fear Street?
Absolutely not. What would be what we don't want to hold ourselves to one. What will be our next one?
What do we got? What comes out Friday?
What comes out Friday?
Nothing matters after Marvel. Apparently, I don't.
Yeah, no, we're done with watching movies and stuff.
Yeah, we got some. I know. I mean, the rest of July is big. Oh, that's when Old and stuff comes out, right?
Yeah. Oh, Old is next Friday?
No, maybe that's the week after.
It could be.
I don't know.
Looking now because we are
crazy.
Some dead air.
We have Pig coming out, which I know we're both going to try to catch.
Pig we're going to try to watch, and that'll be a good one to check
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage falls in love with a pig. Well, no, that's not it. That doesn't sound like it.
What if it's the pig from Black Widow?
That was a very disturbing scene for me.
Killing the pig.
Like murdering the pig. I was had such a hard time. Space Jam 2 is a request that we've gotten. I'm gonna
going on Wednesday, but that preview last night was horrendous.
It's gonna be so bad.
We looked at each other after the trailer for Space Jam 2. That was before Black Widow, and we're like, "Oh no!" Daffy Duck in a suit.
Yeah, first of all, Daffy Duck is the manager. Daffy Duck's the manager. Get out of my face with Daffy Duck being the manager. He was in the starting 5 in the 90s.
He's old now.
Bugs is in there, I think, if they ever play basketball. I think apparently they just fucking rap.
Where can people find you?
This only goes up to Thursday. People can find me at Math Teacher Movies on Instagram.
He's on TikTok now too, so check that out.
Yeah, Math Teacher Movies on TikTok and Math Teacher Move 1 on Twitter, where I post all of my Instagram.
And you can find me at guidetomovies.com, Guide to Movies on Instagram, Guide to Movies 1 on Twitter, Guide to Movies on TikTok and elsewhere, And the podcast, our weekly podcast, comes out every Wednesday, unless otherwise noted, on our Instagrams. And we will be doing spoiler pods each week as we can. We try to do one a week, but sometimes, life gets in the way. So look out for those. But until then, bye.
Bye.
Bye. Stop it. I can't hit